This cop was surprised after he's facing felony charges for making false arrests. Let's get into it.
After this test, Zahersky, am I free to go?
How do you fight against an officer's word against yours?
I'm gonna look at my toe. I'm gonna
make
count
sure it's
to
parallel to the ground, okay?
Without the video, Smith-Skinner may easily have been convicted based on Officer Zahersky's testimony alone.
I understand what I'm doing, but I've done 3 tests.
Welcome back to the Lackluster channel. Steven Zahersky is a retired professional football player who played offensive lineman for 3 seasons with the Cleveland Browns and Jacksonville Jaguars. And after his playing career, Zahersky became a police officer working in North Rialton, Ohio, where he was honored as Cuyahoga County's top OVI cop for 7 consecutive years.
Zahersky is a top DUI enforcer year after year, at one time the best in Ohio.
In 2016, numerous posts referred to him on Facebook because of how many OVI arrests he makes each year. The year prior, his department made a total of 294 OVI arrests, and Steve was credited to 124 of them. During an interview after receiving an award for the arrests, Officer Zahersky said, quote, "I like to be nosy, so I'm going to stop a lot of cars to see what they're doing and why they are doing it." At the time, the department had no body cams and no dash cams for any of their members. And in October of 2018, Officer Zahersky pulled over 22-year-old Austin Smith-Skinner for his window tint and license plate light. Fortunately for Austin, he recorded the encounter.
All right, you're gonna have you raise your foot. Doesn't matter which foot, about 6 inches off the ground, you'll count. 1001, 1002, 1003.
After a series of tests, Austin was arrested for OVI.
Smith-Skinner was also charged with fleeing, resisting arrest, and more.
When Austin appeared in court, his attorney called Officer Zahersky to the stand, and by then, they had noticed a pattern in the officer's reports.
What we did today was review a whole bunch of his reports. They all have kind of the same buzzwords in them, saying that the driver's eyes are bloodshot red and watery. That appears in just about every one that he wrote.
With that in mind, Austin's attorney questioned Officer Zahersky about his client's behavior during the stop that led him to think that he was operating a vehicle while under the influence. Zahersky testified that Austin slurred his speech, writing the same thing in his report 27 times.
1028, 1029. You're gonna go roughly to 30, okay, Austin? Now, doesn't matter which foot you use your right or your left. Arms need to be down to your sides, both legs straight, and the foot that you raise, you need to be looking down at that toe. Make sure it's parallel to the ground too, about 6 inches off the ground, okay?
And after this test, Zahersky, am I free to go?
Well, I'm trying to determine what's going on here, so let's figure out what we're doing with this test. Do you understand what you're doing here?
After this test, am I free to go?
You understand what you're doing here, Austin?
I understand what I'm doing, but I've done 3 tests.
Okay.
Okay.
Understand the instructions?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm gonna look at my toe. I'm gonna
make
count
sure it's
to
parallel to the ground, okay? A little bit higher than that.
What do you want? A
You
level?
want your foot 6 inches? Yeah, parallel to the ground. That's parallel. This is not parallel.
6, 7, 8, 9. Small steps backwards.
That is the cell phone video that Austin Smith-Skinner took while doing sobriety tests. He had a bit of an attitude, but performed pretty well. However, Officer Steve Zahersky didn't think so and cited him, making references to his slurring words 27 times in his report.
We just got into a fight. We wanted to go to our friend's house. I'm sorry my taillight's out. I will fix it. Literally, look. I backed into something earlier. Like, my taillight's busted. I have to get my front fog light fixed. If you want to see it, you can see it. Like, I will go and fix this stuff.
How do you fight against an officer's word against yours?
Manning had him demonstrate slurring. It was nothing like what was on the tape.
Having demonstrated what slurring was, I think that was key.
Officer Zahersky also testified that Austin swayed during the tests, and that at one point he raised both of his hands. But again, only after the officer testified would Austin's attorney play the video of the field sobriety tests. And when he did, he directed the officer to say stop when Austin raised his hands.
1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005, 1006, 1007, 1008, 1009, 1010, 1011, 1012, 1013, 1014, 1015, 1016, 1017, 1018, 1019, 1020, 1021, 1022, 1023, 1024, 1025, 1026, 1027, 1028, 1029, 1030. Do you want me to go any further?
I do not, your friend.
In the judge's opinion after the trial, he wrote that Officer Zahersky remained silent during the review of the tape. All of Austin's charges were dropped, with the judge adding that Austin performed the tests in what could only be described as in a flawless fashion.
Attorney Anthony Manning tried the OVI case, challenging Zahersky's account of things.
It's the same routine,
Almost like it's a template that he fills out.
Exactly.
Smith Skinner was found not guilty.
The judge also added that Officer Zahersky's report was replete with inaccuracies and falsehoods, attesting to the inaccurate statements while under oath, and that there was no question that the stop, continued detention, and subsequent arrest of Austin resulted in a substantial intrusion upon his constitutionally protected liberty interest, in direct violation of his civil rights and the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution. The department had conducted their own internal investigation prior to the trial, and at the time, of course, they found no wrongdoing. Police Chief Kenneth Bilonovich said that he believed the judge's ruling to be, quote, a personal attack. However, after the trial, he suspended Zahersky for 1 day after finding that the officer was, quote, not as familiar with the case as he was testifying to as he should have been, in part because of an unvetted cell phone video that the officer did not get to watch before he testified. The chief stated that he found no proof that the officer lied or purposefully filed a police report with inaccuracies or falsehoods.
Judge Timothy Gilligan in court saw the video after Zahersky's testimony, and he quickly noted the difference between what he saw in the video and what Officer Zahersky testified to under oath.
A police officer testifies in court that someone he charged with DUI was slurring his words during sobriety tests. Well, the video doesn't show it, and now the officer has a date in court.
Police officer Stephen Zahersky said that Austin Smith Skinner had watery eyes, was kind of unsteady, also was slurring his words. After watching the tape, the judge cleared Smith Skinner, but he did something else. He also referred the case to county prosecutors to see if Zahersky had committed perjury. Judge Gilligan was none too happy, and in his judgment entry said what Zahersky did in his report and on the stand stains the badge of all courageous police officers dedicated to protect and serve.
Read together.
He wanted a grand jury investigation and got it.
After the judge found Zahersky lied in a police report and under oath on the stand, the officer was charged with perjury, tampering with evidence, and falsification. Fast forward to just 1 day before Zahersky's trial was set to begin, his legal team filed a motion to dismiss the case, claiming that the prosecution failed to properly preserve the original cell phone used to record the video. And instead of seizing the phone and doing a forensic copy of its contents, the prosecutor had used a copy of the video that had already been entered into evidence in municipal court during Austin's OVI trial. The officer's attorney argued that without a forensic copy, that there wasn't a way to prove that the video wasn't edited or altered, and if the video couldn't be authenticated, that it should be thrown out.
Attorneys with different views of whether or not a video showing an OVI test was altered. North Royalton police officer Steve Zahersky's trial began this afternoon. Now, his lawyers unsuccessfully tried to have that video of him arresting a suspect thrown out.
So the tape appeared to show a different behavior than what Zahersky wrote in a police report.
His attorneys wanted the video thrown out because it was a copy and they were unable to view it on the phone that took it. They feared it could have been doctored.
It would be important to see that entire video to know what preceded it and what the importance is.
If it exists.
Judge Shirley Strickland Saffold listened to both sides and decided to watch the video herself.
4, 5, 6, 7.
It didn't take her long to decide.
Nothing to indicate to the court by the showing of the tape that the video had been altered or was not in its original form.
Before the trial, Officer Zahersky was offered a plea deal, but he refused the offer.
Officer Zahersky was offered a plea deal to take it down to a misdemeanor, but he'd have to give up his police certification. He didn't want to do that, so he's risking those 3 felonies now as the trial begins. We expect opening statements tomorrow.
The next day, opening statements began, and almost immediately after, the officer was offered an even better plea deal. No felony charges, just 1 count of misdemeanor obstruction, and he wouldn't have to give up his police certification.
A North Royalton police officer entered a guilty plea this morning to an obstruction charge. The surprise plea came in the middle of his trial.
He said the man slurred his words repeatedly, but the videos we saw showed otherwise.
The officer faced 2 felonies and a misdemeanor charge. He had maintained his innocence, but today he agreed to plead guilty to 1 misdemeanor charge.
This morning we entered into some negotiations.
Before the first witness hit the stand, Special Prosecutor John Ricotta addressed the court. He and the defense had entered into a plea agreement, dropping the most serious charges, felony charges, including perjury against Steve Zahersky. He was left with a 2nd-degree misdemeanor obstruction. He jumped at the deal.
In exchange for that plea, other charges, including 2 felony counts, were dismissed.
Officer Zahersky took the offer, but the judge barely allowed it.
Okay, I promise to accept it. Okay.
A surprise plea deal and the trial of a North Royalton police officer appears to surprise the judge, who appeared, as you just saw, to have second thoughts.
How do you plead, sir? Guilty or not guilty?
Guilty, Your Honor.
And are you in fact guilty?
Yes, Your Honor.
Zahersky appeared humbled by having to say the words. In front of fellow officers, he apologized for letting the case go on as long as it did. He never admitted purposely falsifying his report.
I think I need to prepare myself better on my reports and testimony, and this wouldn't be a situation that happened today.
Wait a minute. So he's about to get out of this? He doesn't have to face any real repercussions?
Shirley Strickland Saffold's comments after sentencing left you scratching your head in a way as she addressed the parties to the plea.
No way he's about to get away with this right now.
Have you ever seen glasses that can see through? These glasses can see through objects. Carefully
and I feel bad about it.
Judge Shirley Strickland Saffold's comments after sentencing left you scratching your head in a way as she addressed the parties to the plea.
And I feel bad about this plea. I do, Henry. I do, Mr. Ricotta, because I don't know what he did.
She is not alone. Zahersky's lawyer simply described the negotiations as being fluid.
With the felony charges dropped, Zahersky was sentenced to 1 year of probation, ordered to pay a $50 fine, and was recommended that if he returned to his job as a police officer, that he would have to serve on restricted duty for at least 1 year.
For the next year...
Are you serious, bro? He got off that easy?
North Royalton police officer Steve Zahersky will be back at work, but on restricted duty. Basically, that's inside work. That finding came out of the blue this morning.
Now, the judge also finds Zahersky and sentenced him to inactive probation for 1 year. He will also be on restricted duty with the police department for about a year.
2 more people who claim to have been wrongfully arrested by Officer Zahersky came forward. Notably, their charges were also eventually dismissed. It's unclear how many of these cases settled before going to lawsuit, but Officer Zahersky is named in at least 2 civil rights claims online. Unfortunately, there is no information on whether Austin's case was one of the ones that settled.
There is a side benefit to all of this. Something like this is not likely to happen again here in North Royalton. Since the Zahersky affair, all of the officers have been equipped with dash cams and body cams.
A big thanks to an anonymous viewer for sending me in this story, who tells me that Steve Zahersky is back out on the streets and has recently pulled over his brother, accusing him of drinking and driving. Let me know what you think in the comments.
Bro hadn't learned his lesson. He probably gonna keep doing the same exact stuff. But that dude probably hadn't learned yet. He gonna keep doing the same exact stuff, and they're probably gonna have the same situation with another person. Appreciate you guys watching. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. I'm gonna catch you on the next video. I'm gone.